They warned everyone to stay inside. They said the mountain was no longer safe. The temperature dropped below zero. Cars disappeared under snow. Phones went dead. And somewhere in that white hell, people were trapped. A child was losing feeling in his hands. A mother was whispering prayers in the dark. Police tried to reach them, but even they were forced to turn back. That's when something unexpected happened. While humans hesitated, a dog stepped forward. Through freezing wind, through collapsing roads, through avalanches that killed silence itself. No fame, no fear, just instinct. And when the mountain tried to take everyone that night, this dog refused to let it win. What happened next saved dozens of lives and nearly cost the hero his own. Stay till the end, because this is not just a rescue story. This is the night a dog became hope. The town of Ridgefall Valley was used to snow, but not like this. What began as a light snowfall turned into a brutal white storm within hours. Wind howled through the mountain roads, erasing tracks as soon as they appeared. Visibility dropped to almost nothing. Cars stalled, power lines snapped, and before anyone realized how serious it was, more than 30 people were trapped across different points of the valley. At the local police station, chaos filled the room. Radios screamed non-stop. Vehicle stuck near North Pass. Family trapped in a bus. We can't reach them. Roads are blocked. Officer Daniel Cross slammed his glove against the table. We're running out of time. Standing quietly near the door was Koda, a large rescue dog with thick fur and calm eyes. Unlike the others, Koda wasn't pacing. He wasn't barking. He was watching. Koda had been trained for avalanche and cold weather rescue, but even for him, this storm was extreme. A senior officer shook his head. It's too dangerous. We can't send anyone out now. Just then, a radio call cut through the noise. A weak signal, a woman's voice shaking. There are people trapped near the old tunnel. Snow is filling the cars. The signal died. Silence followed. Koda suddenly stood up. He walked toward Daniel, nudging his leg, then turned toward the door. Once, twice. Koda barked. Not loudly, but firmly. Daniel looked down at him and understood. If we wait, he said quietly, they won't make it. Minutes later, a small rescue unit prepared to move, against orders, against fear, against the storm. Koda stepped into the snow first. The wind nearly knocked him over, but he pushed forward, nose low, tail steady. Every step mattered. Behind him, police officers followed, hearts pounding. None of them knew yet that this night would change everything. Because somewhere ahead, buried under ice and silence, people were still alive, and Koda could feel it.
Koda stopped near the slope, his paws sinking deep into fresh snow. The wind screamed across the mountainside, pushing ice into his fur, but he ignored it. His nose moved rapidly from side to side, catching something invisible to the humans behind him. Officer Daniel raised his arm, signaling the team to halt. "What is it, boy?" he whispered. Koda barked once, then began digging. Snow flew behind him in fast, powerful strokes. The officers rushed forward, using shovels and bare hands. Within seconds, they uncovered the edge of a crushed vehicle roof buried almost completely under snow. "Car!" someone shouted. Inside, faint tapping echoed. Daniel's heart raced. "They're alive!" The team worked quickly, clearing snow from the doors. A woman was pulled out first, shivering, barely conscious. Behind her were two men, trapped for hours with almost no air left. Hypothermia had already begun to take hold. As medics wrapped them in thermal blankets, Koda suddenly stopped wagging his tail. He turned away. Daniel noticed immediately. No, he's not done. Koda moved uphill, struggling against deep snow. The storm worsened, visibility dropping to arm's length. Radios crackled with warnings. "Command to Unit 7, storm intensifying. You must return." Daniel looked at Koda pushing forward. "We can't," he replied. "Not yet." Koda barked again, this time urgent. The dog reached an abandoned bus stop buried under snow. He circled, sniffed, then lay down, pawing the ground. Daniel dropped to his knees and brushed snow away with his hands. A child's mitten appeared. Everyone froze. They dug frantically, uncovering a small space beneath the snowpack. Inside were 3 people, a mother and her 2 children, huddled together, barely breathing. The youngest child wasn't moving. The mother's lips trembled. "Please, help my son." A medic immediately began warming the child, checking for a pulse. Seconds felt like hours. Then, a weak cough. Everyone exhaled. Tears mixed with snow as the family was pulled free. But the relief didn't last long. A deep rumble rolled through the mountain. Daniel's face went pale. "That's an avalanche warning." Koda's ears flattened. He barked sharply and ran toward the trees. The mountain was shifting. Snow cracked beneath their feet. Daniel shouted, "Move, now!" The team rushed, dragging survivors as the ground behind them collapsed in a wave of white. They barely reached cover as the avalanche thundered past, swallowing the road they had just been standing on. Silence followed, heavy and terrifying. Everyone stood still, realizing one thing. If Koda hadn't warned them, none of them would be alive. But the radio crackled again. Another distress signal, faint, broken. "Anyone, please, tunnel, trapped." Daniel closed his eyes. They had survived one disaster, but the worst was still ahead.
Koda ran straight toward the avalanche zone, snow spraying behind him with every step. Officer Daniel shouted his name, but the wind swallowed his voice. For a moment, the officers hesitated. That area was unstable, dangerous, and officially marked as no entry even before the storm. But Koda didn't slow down. Daniel clenched his jaw. "He smells someone," he said. "That dog doesn't move like that for nothing." Against every safety rule, the team followed. The road ahead was gone, replaced with twisted metal, crushed trees, and thick walls of snow. A half-buried tunnel entrance appeared through the storm, the same tunnel mentioned in the broken radio message. Koda stopped at the entrance and barked repeatedly, pacing in tight circles. "Tunnel collapse," one officer muttered. "If anyone's in there..." The ceiling groaned as wind pushed snow deeper inside. Every step echoed with danger. Daniel knelt beside Koda. "Show me." Koda led them inside the tunnel, moving carefully, nose low. About 20 feet in, he stopped at a mound of snow mixed with concrete dust. Then he scratched. Under the debris, a faint voice responded. "Help, please." They dug fast, ignoring the cold biting into their hands. Finally, they pulled out an older man, bruised and frozen but alive. Behind him was another survivor, a truck driver who had been trapped since the storm began. But before they could celebrate, the tunnel shook violently. Cracks spread across the ceiling. "We have to get out!" someone yelled. As they dragged the survivors toward the exit, a massive slab of ice fell behind them, blocking the way back. The tunnel was now sealed. Darkness closed in. Radio signals died. Panic crept through the group. Daniel tried his radio again. "Unit 7 trapped inside tunnel. Repeat, we are trapped." Nothing. Oxygen felt thinner. Snow continued to fall inside from above. Koda moved ahead of the group, barking, then stopping at the tunnel wall. Daniel followed and noticed something. The dog wasn't panicking. He was thinking. Koda began scraping at the wall near a cracked section of concrete. The sound echoed differently there, hollow. There might be a service passage, Daniel realized. Using emergency tools, the officers broke through the weakened wall. Cold air rushed in. Hope. One by one, they pushed through the narrow opening, emerging on the far side of the mountain where snow was lighter and trees blocked the wind. They weren't safe yet, but they were alive. Exhausted, the team collapsed to their knees. Daniel hugged Koda tightly. "You saved us again, boy." But Koda didn't relax. He pulled away. His eyes locked onto something down the slope. A set of fresh footprints, too small to belong to an adult, leading into the storm. Daniel's heart sank. No, please, no.
The shoe was small, too small. Daniel picked it up with shaking hands. The fabric was stiff from ice, the laces frozen together. He didn't need to ask whose it was. Everyone already knew. "A child," one officer whispered. The wind howled louder, as if the mountain itself was warning them to turn back. Night had fully fallen now, and the temperature continued to drop fast. Visibility was almost zero. Command finally broke through on the radio. "Unit 7, you are ordered to return immediately. Conditions are fatal." Daniel looked at Koda. The dog stood still, staring into the darkness beyond the slope. His tail was low, ears alert, body tense. He wasn't scared. He was focused. "We can't leave," Daniel said into the radio. "There's a child out there." Silence followed. Then Command replied quietly, "You have 10 minutes." Koda moved first, carefully navigating the slope. The ground was uneven, hidden beneath deep snow. Every step risked another slide. The officers spread out, ropes tied around their waists. Koda suddenly stopped and began digging again, fast, desperate. Daniel dropped beside him, clearing snow with his hands. At first there was nothing, just ice and rock. Then a weak sound, not a voice, a breath. They dug harder. A small opening appeared, revealing a tiny space beneath a fallen tree and packed snow. Inside was a little boy, curled tightly, his skin pale, lips blue. He wasn't crying. He was too cold to move. Daniel carefully pulled the child out, pressing him against his chest. "Stay with me," he whispered. "You're safe now." Koda whined softly, licking the child's frozen hand. The boy's fingers twitched, but the mountain wasn't finished. A loud crack echoed above them. "Slide!" someone screamed. Snow broke loose, racing down toward them. The team ran, carrying the child, but the snow caught up fast. Koda suddenly broke away, running toward a narrow gap between rocks. He barked, sharp and loud. Daniel understood instantly. "Follow the dog!" They dove into the rocky gap just as the avalanche rushed past, missing them by seconds. Snow thundered by, close enough to steal the air from their lungs. When it finally stopped, the world went silent again. The child coughed, then cried. It was the most beautiful sound anyone had ever heard. Tears streamed down Daniel's face. They had done it. They had beaten the mountain. But as rescue helicopters finally appeared through the storm, Daniel noticed something that made his heart stop. Koda collapsed into the snow, not moving. Daniel pressed his forehead against Koda's, his gloves soaked with snow and tears. "Don't you dare quit on me," he whispered. "You hear me?" The storm had begun to weaken, but the cold was still brutal. Koda lay motionless, his chest barely rising. Every second felt like it was slipping away. A medic rushed over, kneeling beside them. "Severe hypothermia," she said. "If we don't warm him now, we'll lose him." Without hesitation, Daniel unzipped his jacket and pulled Koda closer, sharing his body heat. Another officer removed his own coat and covered the dog. They formed a shield around him, blocking the wind with their bodies. The rescue helicopter circled above, struggling to land. The little boy, now wrapped in blankets, watched from a stretcher. His eyes filled with tears as he reached out weakly. Is he going to be okay? Daniel swallowed hard. He saved you, he said softly. Now we save him. Minutes passed, long, painful. Then, Koda's ear twitched. Daniel froze. Koda? A weak breath escaped the dog's nose. The medic checked his pulse again and smiled through tears. He's fighting. The helicopter finally touched down. Koda was lifted carefully, oxygen placed over his muzzle. As they loaded him inside, the dog slowly opened his eyes and looked straight at Daniel. His tail moved, just once. That was enough. Epilogue. 3 days later, the storm was gone. Ridgefall Valley was quiet again, blanketed in peaceful white. News trucks lined the streets. People called it the night the mountain lost. 37 lives were saved, including a little boy who now carried Koda's picture in his backpack. Koda survived. He returned to the station thinner, slower, but still proud. A small medal now hung beside his badge harness, engraved with simple words, "Service beyond fear." Daniel knelt in front of him one last time before retirement papers were signed. You didn't just save lives, you taught us how. Koda wagged his tail. Outside, snow fell gently again, but this time, no one was afraid.